You are Locked On 49ers Postcast, part of Locked On Sports San Francisco on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. You may know me as the former producer for the Murph and Mac Morning Show on KMBR. And today, the San Francisco 49ers jumped out to a 2-touchdown lead in the first quarter and led for nearly the entire game. But a Joshua Karty field goal drilled with just 2 seconds left on the clock to give the Rams a win and dooms the 49ers to their second loss of the season and losses in back-to-back weeks now. Jauan Jennings played the game of his life as he hauled in 11 receptions on 12 targets for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns from Brock Purdy, but it just wasn't enough for the win as the Niners defense surrendered 20 points in the second half. An incredibly tough loss for the 49ers in a game that they absolutely should have won. We'll break it all down, but first I want to thank all of you for watching us on the Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel. If you are not already subscribed, a lot of you, we haven't done a lot of these 49ers postcasts, and we've only started doing them pretty recently. So if you aren't already subscribed, hit that subscribe button right now. Thanks also for tuning in on the Locked On 49ers podcast feed and making us your first listen following these 49ers games. And make sure for your second listen, you check out the Locked On 49ers Daily Show for more in-depth coverage. Brian Peacock does a great job. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. And in this one, right out of the gate, we talked about Jauan Jennings having the game of his life. This guy, the first drive goes right down the field, the Niners do, and they finish it off with a Jauan Jennings touchdown reception, his first of the season on that first drive. Mason kept them on schedule. The Niners really did a good job offensively all through that first half. Then the second drive that they get the ball, they go down and they score a touchdown too. This was also the first time this season that the 49ers have scored on their opening drive, have scored a touchdown on their opening drive. So that was a very good sign. We got a couple 3-and-outs so far. So this was a good, Kyle likes to script those first 15 plays or 15 to however many, at least the first 15 plays from scrimmage. And he usually does a pretty good job getting the Niners some points on the board. So far this season, that hadn't been the case. But this, I thought, was a good sign for the 49ers. Then the defense goes out and gets a stop, like a dominant stop over the Rams. And I thought this was going to be how the rest of the game went, man. Like, I thought this 49ers defense was going to come in here and flex their muscles on this Rams team who just had, everybody on this Rams team is hurt. Cooper Kupp out. Puka Nacua out. Half their offensive line is out. There's so many guys on this team, linebackers, offensive tackles, tight ends, like all over the board. The Rams are missing dudes. And I know the 49ers have some injuries too. Obviously, no George Kittle today, still no Christian McCaffrey. Deebo Samuel also out today. So it's not like the 49ers had their full complement of playmakers out there. But you still got Jauan Jennings, you still got Brandon Ayuk, and you still got Jordan Mason, who's been pounding that potato great early on this season. Mason also had a decent game today, and he had another 77 yards on 19 carries. But it was really Jauan Jennings who, Brock Purdy threw for 292 yards, and Jauan Jennings had 175 of those. More than half of Brock's yards went right to Jauan Jennings. So they still had guys out there making plays, moving the ball through the air. The 3 touchdown passes, the most that Purdy has thrown in any one game so far. The 49ers outgained the Rams 425 yards to just 296 yards for the Rams. But where the Rams made this up was in the penalty category, because the 49ers were penalized 7 times for 111 yards. I'll say that again. The 49ers gave away 111 free yards to the Los Angeles Rams. So when you add those 111 yards to that 296, brings it a lot closer to that 425 number. You know what I'm saying? So the Rams doing a great job on capitalizing on 49ers miscues. And it seemed like in the first half, the 49ers were the ones who were getting bailed out on third down. The Rams with a bunch of third down penalties, and the 49ers converting a lot on those third downs in that first half. In the second half, the Rams defense really stepped up on those third downs, stopped making those dumb penalties, and the Niners started doing what the Rams were doing in the first half. The Niners defense gave up 20 points in the second half. Matt Stafford didn't even complete a pass in his first drive, did not complete a pass until the second quarter of this game. And Matt Stafford still ends up finishing off the 49ers with a couple really nice drives. Kyren Williams having 3 touchdowns is inexcusable. The fact that this guy all season long behind this beleaguered, diminished offensive line, this guy had 75 total rushing yards coming into this game this season. Today, Kyren Williams goes well over that, 89 yards just today alone, plus the 2 touchdowns. And then he did some work through the air as well. This was a really, really, really bad defensive game for the 49ers in these big moments. You also had Tutu Atwell making plays all over the field. He had 4 receptions for 93 yards. And this guy was all over the field making plays. I mean, he had what would have been a pass that put the Rams down at the 3-yard line. They ended up ruling that was a incomplete pass on a 49ers challenge. Atwell had taken the jet sweep, rolled all the way to the far right sideline, and then chucked a pass all the way down to Demarcus Robinson down in at the 3-yard line. And it would have been an amazing play, but ball came loose just at the last second. Good challenge by the 49ers to limit that, but or throw that challenge flag and prevent the Rams from getting out there. They almost didn't get that challenge flag off in time. The Rams tried to hustle up to the line, run another play to prevent the 49ers from challenging that. And it was a big play at the time. The 49ers defense ends up standing tall on that drive. And that was a huge drive because it held the Rams to just a field goal when they were trailing by 10. So it seemed like the Niners were still in good position with the touchdown lead in late in this one. And they were driving, man, in the fourth quarter with a touchdown lead. The 49ers get the ball back and they're driving down the field. Brock improvising on that drive a lot. Credit the Rams defense, who made a lot of changes in schemes in the secondary in the second half, stopped letting Jennings just run wide open because he did most of his damage in the first half. 2 of those touchdown passes and more than 100 yards in that first half. And then in the second half, he still ended up with another touchdown at 75 more yards. But he did a lot of his work in the first half, and the Rams did adjust well to limit him a little bit and slow him down, at least in the second half. But the 49ers defense just couldn't do it. And when it was the most critical drive of the game, the 49ers driving down the field when it's a 24-17 lead right after this Rams field goal in the fourth quarter, and Brock is running for his life the whole time. The offensive line doesn't look like it's holding up on this pass rush anymore, which at the beginning of the game, the Rams couldn't get, they had the most clean pocket that I've ever seen Brock Purdy throwing from in his NFL career was early on in this game. He had all day to sit back there and throw the ball. Mark Sanchez saying that he had enough time to sit back there and cook some well-done steaks. He was so, just comfortable in that pocket. And in the second half, credit the Rams. They got that pass rush home a little bit more often. And Brock does a decent job at avoiding this, but it still wreaks havoc amongst this 49ers defense or offense. We saw it last week against Brian Flores and the Minnesota Vikings. Brock was under duress all game long and did not have the best game of his career by any stretch of the imagination. But it gave the 49ers, drove down the field far enough. Brock almost he got into a situation in this on the third down play right before the 49ers ended up having a field goal opportunity on this drive. Brock running for his life. This play seemed like it lasted, a whole minute. Not actually, but it just seemed like he ran all the way to the far sideline and came back and ran all the way to the near sideline and was just, backyard football. We heard about backyard sports coming back, all those video games that were super popular when I was a kid and I loved, they're coming back. It looked like he was running around back there and he was playing backyard football and just avoiding that pass rush, scrambles out of the defense's grasps, out of the clutches of that Rams pass rush, and somehow gets a 5-yard gain on the play. And that was a huge play because the 49ers were right on the fringe of being in field goal range. And after that 5-yard gain by Brock, he gave Moody a chance at a 55-yard field goal. And Jake Moody has been so good this year. So good. Has an opportunity to hit a 55-yarder. Remember, he had a 55-yarder in the Super Bowl to send the 49ers into overtime. So this would have been to secure this 49ers lead. If they had hit this field goal, they go up 2 scores. The Rams have 2 minutes to drive down the field. They still had the 2-minute warning and 1 timeout. So they would have had a chance, but they almost certainly would have needed an onside kick recovery, which, as we know in today's modern NFL, that's just almost impossible to come up with. So you pretty much guarantee yourself a win if you hit this field goal, and the 49ers don't. And on that drive, Brock had to use his legs a ton. They were trying to overcome all the penalties that they had all game long, and it just wasn't enough to get them into scoring range. You could see the 49ers offense kind of starting to spiral a little bit in that fourth quarter. And after that missed field goal, the Rams immediately, Stafford finds Atwell for a strike down the sideline, a 50-yard gain right over Charvarius Ward, who was potentially going to miss today's game. He was, on that injury report coming in. It's when this week of practice ended, George Kittle also missed today's game. Nick Bosa was also a candidate to be out for this one, but ended up suiting up as well, same as Ward. But maybe that was part of what was going on. Maybe the injuries were just catching up to this 49ers team, and they were just not able to overcome it enough in that fourth quarter. But after that 50-yard gain, put the Rams in the red zone with just 2 minutes to play, and Kyren Williams then plunges in for the tying score with just 1:51 left on the clock, and his third touchdown of the day ties the game at 24 apiece. And then the Niners had one more drive. Brock almost drew a late hit, a flag for a late hit, but it was picked up because Verse pushed him a millisecond before Brock went out of bounds. And that was a huge play in this one. I mean, the margins in this were razor thin. Ayuk also had a big first down catch just shy of midfield on this play. And then probably the biggest blunder of the 49ers day, all day long. Brock has Ronnie Bell wide open. I mean, wide open down the field. Brock does a great job scampering out of the pressure, fires one down the field, hits Ronnie Bell right in the hands, and this dude just drops it. It was his second drop of the game. He had both drops that he had. I mean, there wasn't even anybody touching him when he went to catch that ball. He had 3 targets. He only had Ronnie Bell did. He only had 1 reception. The other 2 hit him right in the hands, and he dropped them both. This one would have put the 49ers in field goal range. I mean, or at least on the border of it. Jake Moody with that big leg. I would have liked to see him get a second chance. The way he's been kicking the ball this year, I don't think he would have missed 2 from 50 to 60 yards. I think he would have drilled it if Ronnie Bell hauled this one in. Brock then scrambled forward on that was on a second down, puts the Niners in 3rd and long, and then here comes the Rams pass rush, wraps up Brock Purdy. He was able to scramble forward for a 1-yard gain and avoid the sack, but just didn't get the pass off, didn't have a chance, forces the 49ers to punt. And then the cherry on top of all bad things that could happen, you just can't give up a big return in this situation, and you're almost certainly going to overtime. Give yourself a chance to win this game. The Rams returned the punt all the way to midfield. I mean, they were going to be pinned down near their 20-yard line, and instead this guy just hits the sideline and goes right up the field. I mean, this was the Rams punt returner's first NFL touch. This guy's a rookie. It was the first time he touched a ball in an NFL game. Puts the Rams in scoring position almost immediately. Then right away, a pass interference penalty to put the Rams right into field goal range. It was called against on Campbell. He's a linebacker and he was guarding a tight end like 20 yards down the field. You don't want that situation. And it was tough. It was really tough. They were actually called for like 3 penalties on the play. I think they got Demo Lenore on a hold and like illegal hands to the face. And then they also called the PI on Campbell. But as you guys know, the pass interference is a spot foul. The other 2 would have been automatic first downs, but this one puts the ball at the 25-yard line for the Rams. An absolute chip shot for Rams kicker Joshua Karty, who I actually had the privilege of watching all last season as the Stanford kicker, and this guy was drilling from 50-plus in college. If you don't think he's going to hit a 35-yard field goal, I mean, this guy's automatic, like the all-time leading scorer in Stanford football history. And this guy, automatic. Joshua Karty, I mean, rookie kickers are sometimes a question mark. We all saw what Jake Moody did in his first year with the 49ers. Not this guy. Joshua Karty, I mean, as soon as I saw him trotting out there, maybe some other 49ers were like, oh, rookie kicker, maybe he misses, folds under the pressure. I knew as soon as that pass interference happened that this game was over because Joshua Karty is nails and automatic from inside 40 yards. Drills the game winner, hits a field goal with 2 seconds left on the clock. And the 49ers did get one more play where they had the crazy scramble around. They were looking for, a hook and ladder play that turned into just, rugby style scrum where everyone's throwing the ball around and lateral in all over the place. Ultimately, the Rams are able to knock it loose. Some little extracurriculars at the end there between Brandon Ayuk and the Rams sideline, as he was none too happy with the way he got blown up. But Brandon Ayuk, my guy, I need you to have more than 5 receptions on your 10 targets. He had some key drops in this one as well. We got to take a quick break here on the Locked On 49ers postcast. Tons more to go through in this one. Stick with us on the other side. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. We'll be right back. Today's show is sponsored by DoorDash. Football is finally back, which means it's time to order your favorite game day food, snacks, and drinks on DoorDash without missing a play. I got to make sure I'm locked in with the snacks all day long, man. You know how it is. You don't get to have this exquisite physique, this body type. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You don't get cheeks like this, man, from eating healthy all the time. You're having good snacks. You're eating good. You know what I mean? And DoorDash, they help me get all my snacks on these football Sundays, because I'm not moving from the couch on a football Sunday. And with so many options on DoorDash, especially in San Francisco and the greater Bay Area, I don't even need to leave the comfort of my own home to have a delicious meal. And today, we got something to set you all up for Sunday Night Football tilt that's just about to get underway. So right now on DoorDash, just use promo code LOCKEDFALL24. That's LOCKEDFALL24 for 50% off up to $10 when you spend $15 or more on your first order. Limited time offer. Terms apply. Promo is not valid for orders containing alcohol. DoorDash, your door to game day greatness. Your door to move. Download the DoorDash app now to order your game day favorites. Must be 21 plus to order alcohol. Drink responsibly. Alcohol available only in select markets. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers postcast. I am your host, Eric Triple E Engel. Today, the 49ers lose a heartbreaker as they fall to the Rams 27-24 on a last-second field goal by Joshua Karty of the Rams. And man, it was penalties, miscues, bad special teams, and big plays on defense, huge gains on defense. How many? I mean, so many explosive plays for the Rams today. One after the other, and then the penalties, all the pass interference yards, all the third down penalties, all the automatic first downs really put this 49ers team in a bad position. I mean, you had Brock go out there with 300 passing yards, essentially. He had 292 and 3 touchdowns. You have JP Mason add another 77 on the ground, and you only have 1 turnover for the game, and you still lose to the Rams? We're missing, it seems like every major starter on the offensive side of the ball, and you still give up 27 points to this team. That is a concern for me. The Vikings game was not a huge concern defensive-wise for me. They gave up some big plays over the middle. That Justin Jefferson, a huge touchdown reception, like 97-yard touchdown reception. Obviously, this 49ers defense has been having some issues holding down these big plays, and I thought that this would get better with the return of Talanoa Hufanga, the Tongan Tiger, who was patrolling back there in the secondary again for the 49ers, coming back for the first time since having that gruesome knee injury. He's amazing on the back end of this defense, but it just didn't work out. He and Jair Brown haven't really played a ton together, so those two guys are going to need to figure it out. That huge gain to Atwell that he just flat out beat Charvarius Ward on, that's a little concerning to me, because this is a guy that you need to be your number one corner, shut down cornerback. And if this guy's given up 50-yard passes in crunch time in the fourth quarter to your number 3 receiver, Tutu Atwell, remember, should not be the number 1 option on this Rams offense. They're missing Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. You don't have a whole lot of playmakers on this offense. They got Kyron Williams back there who had 3 touchdowns today, but as far as pass catching targets, they have some good tight ends, but you aren't afraid of this wide receiver core. There's no reason that these wide receivers should be putting up 221 yards of reception yardage. That just shouldn't happen. Tutu Atwell, Demarcus Robinson, both of them doing pretty good job getting down the field. Demarcus Robinson had one big play of 32 yards, a big explosive play, but you look at these average yards per reception for these Rams receivers. Kyron Williams, over 10 yards per reception. Demarcus Robinson, 32 yards per reception. Tutu Atwell, 23.3 yards per reception in today's game. This defense gave up a ton of big plays through the air, and this was also after holding Stafford to no completions in that first quarter. So, I mean, this was a really hard day for this defense. They gave up 20 points in the second half and did not force a single turnover. I mean, that's troubling for me. This is a defense that should be better than this. I mean, they did get home a couple times, 3 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, but it's just not enough. They had 5 quarterback hits. I need more pressure on that Stafford than this. You have Nick Bosa. I mean, as one of your bookends, you have Javon Hargrave on this defensive line. You have playmakers all over the place. Malik Collins, you got guys everywhere. Leonard Floyd, guys everywhere. You should be getting home to Matt Stafford more than a couple times. You should have more than just a few quarterback pressures, more than just a handful of them. When you're going up against a team was their B squad for their offensive line in there, you have all-pro former defensive player of the year Nick Bosa, and he just couldn't get it done. I mean, I'm not saying Bosa had a bad game. He did have a couple of tackles at TFL. He also drew a holding penalty in this game, which is amazing. Anytime that Bosa actually gets a call, I just feel like we got to put out a whole breaking news story just on that, because he gets held every damn play and it's never called. He had a whole, he almost got ended up in a headlock again as a Rams tight end, looped the arm around his neck and tried to, drag him down from behind. It just, I don't know how this isn't called every single time, because this happens to Bosa a lot, and it's really, really old watching it. Bosa also had a quarterback hit on the night, so he was active. But you got to have more than what we saw from the 49ers defense today, especially against a Rams offense that is as beleaguered as it is. And not to mention, Kyle Shanahan has certifiably owned McVay for his entire career. And now all of a sudden the Rams are starting to turn the tide a little bit. They figured out the 49ers in their last meeting. They won that one. You remember the 49ers won the prior 3 meetings before that. But the meeting before that one was the NFC Championship game that the Rams won. So the 49ers and Rams, the 49ers beat up on the Rams for a long time. From 2019 through 2022, they had won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 consecutive games, then lost in that NFC Championship, then reeled off 3 more wins in the regular season against those same Rams. But then last year, at the very end of the regular season, the Rams had the 49ers number. And now, here in week 3 of the 2024 NFL season, the Rams have now won 2 consecutive games against the 49ers. And I'm not going to put too much stock into a week 3 loss. I'm not saying the sky is falling, it's all over for the 49ers, but I am concerned about this defense. I especially in the secondary. They need some solutions. They need to figure out how to stop these huge explosive plays that they give up left and right. And the number one thing that they need to fix is all of these penalties. I mean, for you to have a pass interference penalty on that final drive of the game to put the Rams into field goal range, I know it was Devondre Campbell in pass coverage, and you don't ever really want that situation where you got a pass catching tight end 20 yards downfield on a run stopping linebacker. But you need to know that the Rams are going to be doing, I'm kind of confused about the defensive scheme in that situation. Why is a linebacker one-on-one with a tight end in this situation when the Rams, you need to make sure Tutu Atwell isn't going to beat you, but the rest of their wide receivers haven't been doing very much for the rest of this game, except for the one big, huge explosive play that Robinson had. You got to key in on these tight ends and the running back. Today there were, a ton of completions to the tight end / running backs for the Rams, a lot more than they had to wide receivers. So you need to assume that those guys are going to be just as much of a threat to go down the field. And Matt Stafford might be looking for one of those tight ends. You don't want a run block or a run stopping linebacker in the game isolated against one of these pass catching tight ends. That doesn't make sense to me how the 49ers ended up in this situation to begin with. And then you get the pass interference penalty that dooms this team. That you just handed the Rams the win with that pass interference penalty. When you have a guy like Josh Karty as your kicker, you can't do that. Straight up can't do that. And the 49ers had some opportunities. Like, we didn't even need to get here. But the drop pass by Ronnie Bell, and that's if we're just picking it up on this last 49ers drive, like the missed field goal, the drop pass, the pass interference, the bad special teams punt coverage, all of it added up to a 49ers loss. And that the 49ers just gave this thing away, man. Absolutely gave this thing away to the Rams. With the loss, the Niners are 0-2 on the road, and you got to prove now that you can go into someone else's house and win. Thankfully for the 49ers, next week, they're going to be matched up against the Patriots back at home. Patriots, pretty good defense this year so far. They did get smacked by the Jets on Thursday Night Football, but those Patriots, since they did play Thursday Night Football, are going to have an extra long week to prepare for this 49ers team. So they need to make sure that they figure out how they can attack and actually have some success at getting home against this Patriots offense, because 27 points to a Rams team. I know they got Matt Stafford, but a Rams team that has, no playmakers, every single big name wide receiver, all of their, key offensive linemen, so many dudes out on this team for this defense to go out and surrender 27 points, specifically 20 points in the second half. It's bad, man. That's really bad. That's a great coaching job by McVay to make some adjustments at the half and come back out. There was also a big play right before the half, man. The 49ers could have secured this one right before halftime as they started a drive with 1:11 left in the quarter, got 2 first downs near midfield. Trent Williams actually briefly went down with a cramp on this drive, grabbed at his lower left leg after the play and limped over into the locker room. Thankfully, it was just a cramp. He did return. But Brock ends up getting hit from behind. As he sets to throw, he fumbles. The Rams recovered near midfield with just under 30 seconds left, stopped a 49ers field goal opportunity. Rams had 3 timeouts and started the ball, or had the opportunity to start the second half with the ball. The 49ers thankfully didn't give up any points after giving up that fumble after that turnover. But if the 49ers just don't fumble the ball there, they probably kick a field goal, and this game is different. This game ends up much differently if the 49ers score right there before halftime. Instead, the Rams ended up getting the ball back in the second half. They ended up not scoring as the 49ers came out on fire in the second half, stopped that Rams drive, and Brock found Jauan Jennings for his 3rd touchdown of the day. At that point, put him over 100 yards, gave him a career high in yards and touchdowns. Wasn't enough, man. Wasn't enough. And that pretty much, Jauan Jennings caught a few more receptions as this game continued, but it wasn't nearly as explosive as it was earlier on in this game. I should say, with the exception of, man, oh man, did you see him absolutely moss Lake for a 32-yard gain? An absolutely insane catch where he went over the top of Lake and reached around him to catch the ball, somehow didn't commit pass interference, and Lake was in perfect position. But Jennings, man, just used the big body and those long arms, those go-go gadget arms to snare that one, comes up with a huge play on that one. That might have been the nicest reception of, for sure was the best one of the day. Might have been the best one of his career. That was impressive. Came up with another nice catch in triple coverage later on in that drive. Brock placed a low throw to protect Jennings in a spot where only he could make the play. Brock, we didn't talk about him a lot so far on the show today. He played super well too. He was really great with his ball location. Let's talk about that a little bit on the other side. We'll wrap this show up with a little bit of a Brock Purdy analysis really quick, and then put a bow on this one. Wrap up your 49ers postcast. Stick with us on the other side. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. We'll be right back. Today's show is sponsored by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you can place your bets live in-game. You'll start with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just go to FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers postcast. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. Today, 49ers lose an absolute heartbreaker, 27-24 to the Los Angeles Rams in a game where the 49ers had so many opportunities to win this one, gave it away with penalties, bad special teams play, turnovers, like anything that could have gone wrong for the 49ers in this one. In the second half, at least, did. Jauan Jennings played out of his mind. And Brock Purdy was pretty good with the ball, man. He Brock on the day was 22 of 30, 292 yards, an average of 9.7 yards per completion, 3 touchdowns, a quarterback rating of 137.1. So this guy, Brock, played a great game today. Absolutely great game. I think this was the best that we've seen Brock this season so far. His ball placement was really good. A couple drops could have made those numbers look even better. And Brock also got it done with the legs. He was scrambling out there. He had 10 different carries, 41 yards for Brock on the ground today, really using those legs to scramble away from that Rams pass rush. It just wasn't enough to overcome all the defensive miscues, man. It was not a good defensive game for these 49ers, especially in the second half. We talked about it a lot. Giving up 20 points in the second half to a team that is missing this many playmakers is absolutely inexcusable. Now, next week, you have an opportunity to bounce back a little bit. The Patriots, at least defensively for the 49ers, you can bounce back because the Patriots offense leaves a lot to be desired. You got a lot of opportunities to make some plays. And I thought that this was going to happen today too. I even tweeted out before this game, today should be an opportunity for the 49ers defense to flex their muscles on this embattled Rams offense and their infirmary ward of an offensive line. With Nick Bosa playing and Charvarius Ward playing, once we got that news that they were both in this game, I thought this one was a lock. I thought this one was a guaranteed 49ers win. I thought they'd win by multiple scores, and I thought this defense would give up no more than 2, maybe 3 scores maximum. Wow. So far from what we expected in this one. The 49ers give it away to the Rams with turnovers, penalties, bad special teams play. Anything that could have gone wrong in the second half did for these San Francisco 49ers. They're now sitting at 1-2, 0-2 on the road, and this is tough, man. This is tough. I'm taking a quick look at the chat, and someone's saying that 3-5 is a real possibility by the bye week, and I gotta say I don't disagree. I mean, between then, I mean, before the bye week, you got to make sure that the next couple opponents, Patriots, that's not, they're not world beaters, but then you got the Cardinals who have been playing great. You got the Seahawks, tough division opponent. That's always not a super ideal game for the 49ers. Chiefs, we don't really need to say any more than the Chiefs. I mean, you got a lot of tough opponents coming up. You got the Cowboys next. Like, this is, a really tough stretch for the 49ers. They're going to need to figure out how to start winning on the road. You're at home next week against the Patriots. That's a get-right game for the 49ers, hopefully. And then you got another home game against the Cardinals. The next time you hit the road, though, you go up to Seattle. That's a really tough place for the 49ers to win. You need to figure it out before then. That's all the time that we got for you guys on the Locked On 49ers postcast today. No win for the 49ers, a heartbreaker loss. Now 1-2 on the season, but it's still week 3. Plenty of time for this 49ers team to rebound. I didn't think that this was going to be a season where the 49ers kind of ran the table in the regular season like they have in the past. They've been playing it really safe with injuries, making sure that all their key players are going to be ready to go come playoff time. That's why we're not seeing Kittle. That's why we're not seeing McCaffrey, guys like that. I hope that it works out. I hope that they have a strong second half. Hope they have a stronger second half than they've started this first half in. So with that, thanks for tuning in to the Locked On 49ers postcast. If you guys aren't already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please subscribe on the Locked On Sports San Francisco YouTube channel. Make sure you're getting us on the podcast channel as well, on the Locked On 49ers podcast. And thanks for making us your first listen following these 49ers games. Make sure for your second listen, you're checking out Brian Peacock's daily show. He does such a great job, man. Like, I've loved that show for a long time, since long before I started working for Locked On. That's how you know it's a good show. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Peace.